Hello and welcome. What you are looking at here is a 1998 Johnson 115 horsepower outboard. This thing was listed and for sale, claiming it has a cracked cylinder head, which is common, you know, the little space between the valves and whatnot, they can break. Except this is a two-stroke, there are no valves. So, cracked cylinder head is pretty odd. It doesn't usually happen. So, when I saw the listing, I thought, well, maybe the spark plug hole, maybe it, whatever, I'm buying it. So I went and bought it, and sitting on a pallet, put the pallet in the truck, well, dragged the motor off the pallet into the truck, got it home, put it on a stand, popped the hood off. Then I found the cylinder head being loosely held in with one screw and only a couple of threads. So the cylinder head came off, and I have the cylinder head right here. Now, as you can tell, it's in terrible shape. I'm kidding, the thing's quite nice. You know, you don't see any real, like, you know, calcium or salt buildup or anything really. Slight discoloration on the top cylinder. Bottom, it's fine. It's just, I don't know. This is a nice cylinder head. There ain't nothing wrong with the cylinder head, which I was hoping it would be, because then it'd be like a 10-minute fix and I get a running motor again. So, let's see what's actually wrong. This is how I got it. On your view, you may already be able to tell, but so I started rotating it, and that's when I saw the cracked cylinder head they were talking about. Probably lost the ring. Well, we probably ran lean, so we're out of oil or something. And we lost, you know, this one heated up or whatever, and basically just lost a ring and ate a piston. But when we rotate inward, I recently wiped down the cylinder wall, had a little bit of oil on it. You can see, well, you can't because how dark it is. You can see just all the cross hatching. You see a little bit of lines here, but nothing really. That's just the weight of the piston rubbing on it. There's no scoring. It's real nice cylinder walls. The same goes for the bottom cylinder. Aside from the oil, that's pretty nice. We'll take it apart and we'll see where this thing takes us. One notable thing here is this is a 115 SPL, so special, so it shouldn't have had a VRO pump, meaning it should have had a different fuel connector here and no pulse limiting primer thing there, but it does. So I don't know if this was, originally came with a VRO, but the hood doesn't say VRO on it. So maybe this is factory. But I don't see the factory using this bracket here. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. But just thought it was kind of notable. So we lost compression on this cylinder here. So I kind of want to pull out the jet, have a gander, see if it's clogged or not. That is free. So that's not what caused our lean problem. Looking at the bottom carburetor here, there was another piece on that side, but silicone, but it feels more like hot glue on the gasket. It's a little weird. And if you're curious how this is ran, the lower bypass cover here goes down, feeds that one. This one, lower nipple on this cylinder, runs over here to this top bypass cover. And this double one here runs over to the intake manifold right about here. You can't see it. Might as well show you. So yeah, that one feeds the doubles. The upper bypass cover port feeds the lower over here. So if I forget, at least I recorded it. Hopefully the footage stays. And if you forgot, that shows you. Now do keep in mind every engine's different, but that's how this particular one is set up. Well, the reeds look just phenomenal. Look brand new. So chances are it wasn't a reed issue. What is kind of amazing is how easily this thing is coming apart. I mean, how often do you pull off a power head and the gasket come off in one piece? Oh, this is interesting. We have a hole in our lower seal. Well, the entire bearing plate. Does it do anything? I doubt it. But yeah, looks like we have two little indents. So that's interesting. Anyway, as you can see, we can now get to the connecting rod up top. So we'll get that unscrewed and we'll see how this piston looks. All right, we have no ring in the top. We have a little bit of the piston missing. So, yeah. We could probably just put new rings in it, put it back in, probably be fine. Let's do that. Well, here is our cylinder. As you can see, kind of, we had a little bit of damage right there where it caught the ring. Well, it's pretty much all of the ports there kind of scratched up on that bottom. But right here, you can see just a little bit of something. Right there, it catches. So some pretty, I wouldn't say deep grooves, but 2 grooves nonetheless. Yeah, it sucks. I want this engine to run and be a good engine. The experimenter in me says throw a piston in it and see what happens. Because I just so happen to have a nice, good used piston. Where did I get this one, you ask? Plan might still be is, is to throw it in here with some new rings, which I also have, and see what happens. The problem is, I don't know if it's gonna really do anything. Yeah, it'll run, but are we gonna have enough compression for getting performance out of it? You know, it feels good. It doesn't catch. It's not bad. You know, it just kind of sucks. Let me show you my other test I did. So I put the ring in there and then used another piston to push it in nice and, I don't know, parallel, I guess you'd call it. It goes in without any issue. Doesn't catch on the exhaust ports there that are kind of boogered up. But you can still feel a little ridge there. And when you put a light under there, you can see just a pinch of light coming through right there. That's right on the bad spot of the cylinder. It doesn't look like much, but when you add 100 psi and, well, the forces of a combusting gas, that little tiny groove is going to become a much bigger groove. It's going to leak like crazy. You ever seen like a hairline crack on a fuel fitting or something? It just spews gas everywhere. Well, that's a little more than a hairline crack. So I don't think throwing a piston in it and calling it a day is going to work. So I basically think we're taking the whole thing apart. And that comes with its own risks, further risks. First off, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anybody local to do it. There is a local machine shop, basically two dudes, and they do work out of their home garage, much like me. And they have well, half of their space is basically a machine shop. They do a lot of jet ski stuffs. If you've ever heard of them, their name is Group K. Pretty popular in the stand-up jet ski community. Anyway, they're right down the street, literally down the street. If it wasn't 121 outside, you could walk there. So, I could take you to them, but they I don't know if they do this kind of setup, because like a motorcycle cylinder jug, you know, you have flat bottom, flat top, hone it out. Jet ski, same thing. You know, you have a flat top and flat bottom. You can, it's easy for a setup. With this being a V, I don't know where they would get their flat angle to bore it out on. Now, I'm no machinist. That may not be a big deal to them, but if they're not set up to work on a V, if they're, you know, used to motorcycles and jet skis, this might be a little off. Now, they do know two strokes, so that's good. They'd understand the exhaust and intake and exhaust porting. But like I said, I don't know if they can set it up for that V shape of the block here. I suppose I'm going to take it apart and we will find out. You know, that's all I can really do. I don't necessarily want to put it back together the way it is, because I don't think it's going to work very well. I think it's going to be a waste of time, invest money, and it may cause further damage if one of those piston rings catches on one of those exhaust ports. Then we got a grenade situation. So let's rip it apart some more. And we are about to get our first look at this cylinder. Oh, those look gorgeous. What a nice looking wall. Oh, I'd show you, but you know. This always worries me. using a small 1/4" ratchet to get the feel of it. Like that one feels not so good. That's the first one. Usually it's the center. Back. And then one's on the side. I'm kind of wondering if the fate of this motor was simply the person in charge of the torque wrench was asleep. These things are nearly finger tight. So that may be fine. Alright, so they all feel okay, except for the center one. And even that doesn't feel that bad. Oh yeah, that feels good. Oh yeah. We're getting somewhere, folks. That hollow sound, when you hit something, that's how you know you get off, if you got all the bolts off. If you think I was worried on the cover, you can't see nothing until you worry about this one. And it's coming right out. When I said somebody was asleep at the torque wrench when they built this motor, I don't necessarily think I was kidding, because I mean, this is finger tight, you know. I don't know what the torque settings are off the top of my head, but I don't think finger tight is listed. Here's the cylinder walls of the other cylinders. They look pretty good, I'd say. Here's the bottom without the flash on. Ignore the dust. Pretty nice. Well, that is it for now. Next step is to take it to a machine shop, see what they say about the bad cylinder, see what size piston we're getting, if we're getting a 20 or a 30 oversize, and then maybe even a sleeve. I don't know. Let's see what they say, and then order the parts, and then they bore it out, and then I get it back and put it back together. So take a week and a half or so for that to happen, so I'll see you then. It has arrived. Powerhead was sent to Ron's Marine in Portsmouth, Virginia. Apparently he does mail-in boring services, so that's who I sent it to. Now, that was a challenge, getting that sent there, because obviously I had to get a box made. That wasn't too hard. But, I don't know, if something happened and I didn't get this back, finding someone locally to bore this out, fix it, was just never going to happen. Contacted a YouTube channel that does engine rebuilding. It was Jim's Automotive Machine Shop. Make YouTube cylinder videos and whatnot. Machine rebuilding, engine rebuilding, cylinder heads, honing, boring, you know, the usual. So I asked them, I was like, hey, can you tackle this? Like, well, we're not taking on any new customers at the moment. So yeah, that's okay, that's normal enough, I suppose. But he also explained that they couldn't do it anyway. They don't have the machinery for it. Well, what do you mean you don't have the machinery for it? These things have been around since, 50s and 60s, huh? You think a modern machine could do it without any issue, you know? No, it's a blind hole. They're not set up for it. So even after enough begging and pleading, it still didn't happen. But they were very nice. answered all of my ongoing questions. But found Ron. He said, yeah, send it on over. I said, okay. What do we got here? An invoice? We do, I'm surprised. Yeah, we do. One bore, 120. 3 hones, 30. Not bad. I wasn't expecting a receipt. The only thing I would have done differently on the receipt, if I were a machinery builder that knew what I was doing, was included the serial number, the model number off of the core plug on it, the plug on here. That way, when time came to sell the motor, look, customer, I had work done to it, and this thing looks great. I'm standing a few feet away, and it looks pretty. It's kind of funny. I asked him if he was going to resurface the head and clean that up at all. No. Okay, whatever. But yeah, the ports look good. Looks like he might have took a grinder or a file or something to the sides to get them cleaned up. Yeah, not bad. I mean, I would like it to be hot tank and, this thing look brand new, but that's not very realistic. All right, well, we just got to put it back together. Well, it's taken me probably longer than it should have to prep this thing. But, I got other projects coming up and I get busy. So what I've done is I've surfaced all the gasket areas. I ran a thread chaser down each hole for the screws. So we have nice, good, clean hardware ready to accept screws. It's the insides are cleaned up of everything here. They're dust free. I've washed it numerous times. The outside isn't. We still have some dust, but that's going to stay. I'll clean it all off after it's assembled. I've been looking at it for a while, deciding how I want to do this. Let me show you. These are piston ring compressors that would squeeze the piston rings in, and then you could use like a rubber mallet handle or a dowel or something to hammer the piston through the ring compressors into the cylinders. So since this thing has been sitting here for so long without any pistons in it, I think the first thing I'm going to do is do the pistons, work on the crankshaft, and basically start reassembling it from there. So I've been debating how I want to do this. A lot of people ask for torque specs, sometimes part numbers, that kind of thing, and I don't think I'm going to give them in this video. Every motor is different. Might use different torque specs, might use a different seal, might use a different tool. So I'm not going to go through it too much. I think this is just going to be a quick speed up of me putting it back together. I also won't be showing you any of the inspections. So all of the ring gap checking, piston checking with the calipers, crankshaft inspections, none of that's going to happen now. It's already happened. So, yeah. But again, read your manual, see what it says to do. Okay, I got my damaged piston. Gotta pop these little rings out of there. Here is the new oversized piston. Comes with new little retaining clips, a new set of oversized rings, and one new piston. So you can see the difference. The new one looks pretty nice. Let's see if this will start to move. It will. Good. So if you notice, that little tool with enough work retained all those things together for me. Now I need to get that piston back in just how it's supposed to be. There is a hole now on the bottom that needs to face the flywheel. So this is exactly how this is getting put back together. We need to oil some parts here. I have a nice oily rag. And we need to oil the boards going in as well. Major, just a little bit. Looks good and slick. So we put our pin into the top of the piston, or will become the top. So like I said, our hole needs to face up, and so oil finds its way down and in, if that makes sense. We just push this in. Out comes our tool. And our piston is in there. We still need to put in our little connecting things, but our ring and our bearings and our little spacers, everything, nothing got messed with. These little guys are retaining clips. We have here a tapered little opening into this tool. Push the ring into the taper. It's a nightmare. It goes in like so. Driver pushes the ring in. Let me make sure we're going the right way first. So it's got an opening, an opening. I want those opposite. So like that. So that is using the several $100 tool, which you're supposed to do because it warns of ring distortion. However, you don't need it. Let's be honest. You don't do any more or different pushing with the tool than you would do by hand. At least I don't think. I could be wrong, but anyway, it's pretty easy to use the tool. As you slide the rings down, or the ring compressor over the rings, you just center them on there. It slides it right in there. And then you just slide the piston in. But if
I should have put the cylinder heads on first, after the pistons are in. Pretty sure that's what the manual says to do also. For whatever reason, I didn't. Kind of regret it now because they're kind of hard to get to. But it is sitting better without the exhaust on. So I'm glad the exhaust isn't on because that just makes this thing a nightmare. Anywho, we gotta get the bypass covers on, get cylinder heads on. And yeah, we got some more things to do. All right, I'm going to separate out the rest of the hardware I got in the coffee can and then start getting the bypass covers back together. Now, half of you just cringed when I pulled out the coffee can full of hardware. The other half of you probably said, well, that's weird, but if he knows what he's doing, I guess he can get it back together. The remaining quarter of you said, yeah, no, he didn't do that. And you are correct. Here is how I actually do it. I get a piece of cardboard, I stand next to it, and I just pierce the holes where all the hardware is, and then take the screw out, and I put it into the cardboard, and screws go right back where they need to go. And I did that for everything. Like there's the carburetor and intake manifold, intake itself. There's one for the cylinder head. There's the exhaust bolts. So yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's a great way to do it. All the hardware goes right back where it needs to go. Yeah, it takes up a lot of room because you have these piles of cardboard everywhere, but keeps it easy and you don't lose hardware. You can get everything right back to where it needs to go. Well, it's almost ready to go back onto the exhaust housing there and start getting, put back together again. I don't know why we have this pulse limiter there. These from this era were considered not commercial, but you had a 90 and a 115 special, which are kind of like commercial motors, but I guess they are. Anyway, they have special construction, but basically no VRO, and may or may not have power trim and tilt. For whatever reason, this thing had that pulse limiter, and it looks like a VRO bypass kind of thing done to it. I don't know what was going on here. Yeah, that should have never been on there, but I don't know, it's got paint on it. Anyway, so that's going off. I'm going to put a plug in there. It's going to be a gasket going here, and this paint is going to cause kind of a problem since it's raised a little bit. The gasket may not seal right. So what I'm doing here is introducing a nice bit of dust into our opening, but getting the paint off as well. All right, I have here one of my last VRO pipe plugs. If you want the part number 321164, and it's pretty hard to find that part number on the manual, by the way. Not all of them even have it. Anywho, I'm going to put some of this Loctite thread sealant stuff on here and put it into that hole in a second. Should eliminate that pulse limiter and give us the proper pressure to operate that fuel pump. We will see. Well, it'll work fine. Who am I kidding? What do you see? Okay, have the power head suspended above the exhaust housing here. There's no good way to do this. I'm hoping, I don't know why I put it down there. Anyway, so when you go to put the power head on, you're going to knock this gasket loose. It happens every time. What I'm hoping happens now, by putting it on the studs caked with the gasket sealing compound, is that it holds it there for me, so when I lower the power head down, that doesn't get dislodged, which it probably will anyway with my luck. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. We're going to see if this works. Now, you may be thinking, like, hey, you didn't have it that apart when you took it off. Yeah, well, I get it off the bench, get myself some more space, get it attached, and I don't know. It's gonna act like a holder, if you will. Well, I put this thing back together, so that's what I'm doing. You know, basically using the exhaust housing as an engine stand. Now, I should replace those hoses, but they look fine, so I'm going to try to cheap out and not do that. This is the beauty of an engine hoist. As you lower it, it moves position on you. The gasket's starting to fall, but it's fine for now. So let's see what happens here. Now I can pick it up. It's heavy, but it ain't that heavy, so I could just pick it up and put it in the spot. But if I don't have to, I don't want to. So the rear bolt is now lined up. I'm gonna attach this hose as I go down to make life easy. So hose is on, gasket hasn't moved. That hose isn't quite on, but it will be. There we go. Look at that. There's that side. Now this side. Can. Well, the desk is a mess, but it's back together. Reassembly was pretty straightforward. Keeping all the hardware organized and labeled and in its right spot really made this piece cake. Anybody taking anything apart, I really recommend doing that. It makes life easy and it gives you a way to hold everything, you know, right where it goes. It's pretty nice. The only thing I messed up on was the studs on the rear of the power head, the two that would go down here. I sunk them all the way in. I shouldn't have. They should have just gone in a little bit, because I had to take the power head back off, put the studs down a little bit so the nut could grab, and then tighten it back up. That was the only real issue I had. Otherwise, went back together fine. Needed to put a new roller on it. Timing looks okay. I think there's a problem with this. It's just a hair off to where we're not quite getting full throttle out of it. May not necessarily be an issue, but it might be. During the break-in procedure, I'm going to have to set the timing both low and high and do the throttle synchronization, but that's all par for the course. So join me next time with this motor, where we'll see if it runs. Nah, I'm just kidding. I didn't make you sit through this long of a video to not see an engine run. So let's see if it starts. Let's see where this goes. Well, run. Try it again. We got a leaking primer solenoid up top. Let me fix that real quick. Of all things, I did notice, well, you can't see it, I don't think. I did notice that big old crack. Yeah, well, whatever. Got a new used one on there. Probably is going to seal.
fuel pressure back to it. A little bit of gas. Probably turn the hose back on. Well, it runs. It's going to need some fine tuning. Going to need to check the low speed idle when it's actually in the water, not in the driveway. High speed timing, throttle synchronization. I don't need to, but I'm going to clean the body and paint it. I need to order a new little overboard indicator instead of just the hose hanging out there. And the decals, well, there should be some red in there, and there's not. So it's been sitting out in the sun a little too long. Paint's long faded. I think it should be cleaned up. But otherwise, the rebuild went fine. I don't have any complaints. It's a very clean motor internally. Pretty happy with it. Some people may be thinking, hey, why didn't you go through the thermostats when you had that power head off? Well, did you see the inside of the water passages of that cylinder head, how clean those things were? I guarantee you those thermostats look the same way. And with all the money spent elsewhere on this motor, I didn't want to spend the additional money on those. Should I have? Yeah, probably, but did I think they needed it? No. We'll find out if this thing overheats and needs to get rebuilt again. Then I'll be kicking myself in the butt. But for now, I skipped it. Power head, now that we know it'll come off, safely without any broken bolts, it's not hard to take it off and fix the thermostats. And I'm probably going to be doing that anyway after I do the break-in procedure, because I've got some power head paint. I want to clean that up. I want to get basically this thing looking new again. So going to have more work to do on it, but don't know if I'll film it. There you can see the paint. It's kind of, a lot of these little streaks are just from the sealants and stuff leaking down when I was putting it back together. But yeah, the paint's pretty not so good. I don't know if the ignition system works properly. We could only be firing on 3 cylinders. I don't know. I don't know the condition of any of this stuff. I just got it sight unseen, saw the problem, fixed the problem, and any underlying problems the motor had before it lost that piston ring, they're still there. So we'll see where time takes us. But I do think it was worth rebuilding. This is the end of an era. This was the last year the OMC produced the Crossflow V4. This was the end of it. So this is the last one. So yeah, I don't know. Doesn't make it worth any more or anything. But it's a neat thought. I don't know if I'm going to be doing the break-in procedure anytime soon, because I got a fence to build. So I'll probably get started on that. Might be done with outboarding for a little bit, but you never know. We'll see. Well, that's it for now. I'll see you next time.